दीनबन्धुते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी ऋषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्णा
Hare Krishna,
कृष्ण
Krishna
कृष्ण
Krishna,
हरे
Hare
हरे
Hare,
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama,
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama,
राम
Rama
राम
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Please accept our
Jai,
humble obeisances on behalf
Jai,
of
please accept
everybody who
mine.
have joined in or about to join or who would be listening to this session online later on. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 2, Chapter 7, and the text for today is text 15 and 16. Thank you, Prabhuji, for making yourself available and giving your precious time to us on such a short notice. Hare Krishna,
Jai,
over to you.
thank you very much. Just a little bit of a warning. My screen keeps warning me that my bandwidth is very narrow and my connection may go up and down a bit. So what I might have to do is switch off the video part and just continue talking, just to let you know, in case that
Yes,
happens. Okay.
it's happening here as well. I think it's all over Kenya. So,
Oh, really? Okay.
yes.
All right. So a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, texts 15 and 16, continuation of the scheduled incarnations. This is a very nice part here about Gajendra, very famous pastime of Gajendra and the crocodile. So let's continue. Antasaras shuru balena pade grihito grahena yuta patir ambuja hasta arta ahe damanadi purusha kila yokanata tirtha shravana mangala namateya. The leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in a river by a crocodile of superior strength, was much aggrieved. Taking a lotus flower in his trunk, he addressed the Lord, saying, O original enjoyer, Lord of the universe, O deliverer, as famous as a place of pilgrimage, all are purified simply by hearing your holy name, which is worthy to be chanted. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The history of delivering the leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in the river by the superior strength of a crocodile, is described in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Since the Lord is absolute knowledge, there is no difference between His holy name and the personality of Godhead. The leader of the elephants was much distressed when he was attacked by the crocodile. Although the elephant is always stronger than the crocodile, the latter is stronger than the elephant when it is in the water. And because the elephant was a great devotee of the Lord in his previous birth, he was able to chant the holy name of the Lord by dint of his past good deeds. Every living entity is always distressed in this material world, because this place is such that at every step one has to meet with some kind of distress. But one who is supported by his past good deeds engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:16. Those who are supported by impious acts cannot be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, even though they are distressed. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:15. The personality of Godhead Hari appeared at once on the back of his eternal bearer, Garuda, and delivered the elephant. The elephant was conscious of his relation with the Supreme Lord. He addressed the Lord as Adi Purush, or the original enjoyer. Both the Lord and the living beings are conscious and are therefore enjoyers. But the Lord is the original enjoyer because he is the creator of everything. In a family, both the father and his sons are undoubtedly enjoyers, but the father is the original enjoyer and the sons are his subsequent enjoyers. A pure devotee knows very well that everything in the universe is the property of the Lord, and that a living entity can enjoy a thing as ordained by the Lord. A living being cannot even touch a thing which is not allotted to him. This idea of the original enjoyer is explained very nicely in the Ishopanishad. One who knows this difference between the Lord and himself never accepts anything without first offering it to the Lord. The elephant addressed the Lord as Akila Lokanath, or the Lord of the universe, who is therefore the Lord of the elephant also. The elephant, being a pure devotee of the Lord, specifically deserved to be saved from the attack of the crocodile. And because it is a promise of the Lord that his devotee will never be vanquished, it was quite befitting that the elephant called upon the Lord to protect him. And the merciful Lord also at once responded. The Lord is the protector of everyone, but he is the first protector of one who acknowledges the superiority of the Lord instead of being so falsely proud as to deny the superiority of the Lord or to claim to be equal to him. He is ever superior. A pure devotee of the Lord knows this difference between the Lord and himself. Therefore, a pure devotee is given first preference because of his full dependence, whereas the person who denies the existence of the Lord and declares himself the Lord is called Asura. And as such, he is given protection by the strength of limited power, subject to the sanction of the Lord. Since the Lord is superior to everyone, his perfection is also superior. No one can imagine it. The elephant addressed the Lord as Tirtha Shrabaha, or as famous as a place of pilgrimage. People go to places of pilgrimage in order to be delivered from the reactions of unknown sinful acts. But one can be freed from all sinful reactions simply by remembering his holy name. The Lord is therefore as good as the holy places of pilgrimage. One can be free from all sinful reactions after reaching a place of pilgrimage, but one can have the same benefit at home or at any place simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. For a pure devotee, there is no need to go to a holy place of pilgrimage. He can be delivered from all sinful acts simply by remembering the Lord in his earnestness. A pure devotee of the Lord never commits any sinful acts. But because the whole world is full of sinful atmosphere, even a pure devotee may commit a sin unconsciously as a matter of course. One who commits sinful acts consciously cannot be worthy of being a devotee of the Lord. But a pure devotee who unconsciously does something sinful is certainly delivered by the Lord, because a pure devotee remembers the Lord always. The Lord's holy name is called Shravana Mangala. This means that one receives everything auspicious simply by hearing the holy name. In another place in Srimad Bhagavatam, his holy name is described as Punya Shravana Kirtana. It is a pious act simply to chant and hear all about the Lord. The Lord descends on this earth and acts like others in connection with the activities of the world, just to create subject matters for hearing about him. Otherwise, the Lord has nothing to do in this world, nor has he any obligation to do anything. He comes out of his own causeless mercy and acts as he desires. The Vedas and Puranas are full of descriptions of his different activities, so that people in general may naturally be eager to hear and read something about his activities. Generally, however, the modern fictions and novels of the world occupy a greater part of people's valuable time. Such literatures cannot do good to anyone. On the contrary, they agitate the young mind unnecessarily and increase the modes of passion and ignorance, leading to increasing bondage to the material conditions. The same aptitude for hearing and reading is better utilized in hearing and reading of the Lord's activities. This will give one all-round benefit. It is concluded, therefore, that the holy name of the Lord and the topics in relation with him are always worth hearing. And therefore, he is called here in this verse Namadeya, or one whose holy name is worth chanting. So that's quite a purport. There's a lot in there. Maybe we can speak about that before we go on to the next verse, and then we'll see how it goes. Omagana Timirandasya Ganangana Shalakaya Chakshar Unmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this is a very famous story of the elephant and Gajendra and the crocodile. What was the crocodile's name? I forget. Hoo-ha? Was he Hoo-ha in the previous life? Anyway, this whole story is related at length, as Prabhupada is saying in the purport, in the 8th canto. So originally, the elephant Gajendra, he was living in the area where there's an ocean of milk. So obviously it was on the earth. And it was this garden that he lived in that was created actually by Varuna. And it was located near a mountain called Trikuta, from what I remember, Three-Peaked Mountain. And he ruled over all the other elephants in the herd. And of course, because he was a ruler, then of course the influence of the material energy took hold, and he became a little bit proud of the fact that he was the leader of the elephants. So one day, as usual, he went to take his bath, and not only to take his bath, but because he was a devotee, he went to take his bath and to pick up a lotus flower and offer it to Lord Vishnu. Suddenly, a crocodile in the lake attacked Gajendra and caught him by the leg. And Gajendra, as we know the story, he took a long time to try to escape from the crocodile's clutches. All of his herd, his relatives and all his friends and everybody, they gathered around him to try to save him from the crocodile. But the crocodile, as Prabhupada is pointing out in the purport, and the elephant is certainly stronger than a crocodile. An elephant can easily kill a crocodile, but in the water, because he was in his area of dominance, he was in the water, the crocodile was stronger. So the elephant tried so many ways to try to free himself, and the crocodile simply wouldn't let go. So when they realized that death is coming close, Gajendra remembered his devotional creeper. And then he trumpeted in pain, he was helpless, he was hoarse. But as a last desperate effort, the struggle was seemingly endless. And when he spent his last drop of energy, Gajendra called to his deity, Vishnu, to save him, holding a lotus flower in the air as an offering. So, of course, the Lord, hearing his devotees' call and prayer, rushed to the scene. As Gajendra sighted the Lord coming, he lifted the lotus flower with the last remaining drop of energy in his being. And seeing this, Lord Vishnu, of course, was pleased and immediately invoked his Sudarshan chakra, decapitated the crocodile. Gajendra, of course, prostrated himself before the Lord and then offered prayers. A part of the prayers he offered, interestingly enough, is contained in the Vishnu Sahasranam. Of course, he's a devotee of Lord Vishnu, so naturally he would want to offer the prayers from the Vishnu Sahasranam. How did he get into the body of an elephant? That's also a long story, but in synopsis, he was cursed. and he was in the body of in the previous life, he had been Indrajumna. But due to a disrespect of the sage Agastya, he'd been cursed to be reborn as an elephant. But because Indrajumna had been devoted to Lord Vishnu, then when he was born as an elephant, he still remembered the concept of his devotion to his Lord. So Indrajumna, he was supposed to obtain moksha and liberation, but he left all his pride behind him and totally surrendered himself to Vishnu in the body of an elephant. So the prayer made by Gajendra on this occasion is actually a famous line from the Vishnu Sahasranam. I forget what that line is, but roughly it's translated as, although you are dressed in white, O all-pervading one, glowing with the color of the moon, with 4 arms, you're the all-knowing one. I meditate on your ever-smiling face and pray, remove all obstacles in my way. I actually, many, many years ago, I used to recite the Vishnu Sahasranam daily, but unfortunately, old age is catching up on me and I've forgotten. But the crocodile also, he was a devotee in his previous life. Well, kind of a devotee. And he was a Gandharva. And he was the sage Devala. He was a king of the Gandharvas. The sage Devala came to visit the king. And when the two of them went bathing in the water, Devala was offering prayers to Surya, the sun god. And when the king pulled the sage's leg, just as a gesture, just as a bit of fun, that the sage, sages, they can be. We all remember Durvas and how Kali he could be. So he cursed the king to become a crocodile in his next life. The repentant king, he begged the sage's pardon. Devala explained that he could not reverse the curse. However, he informed Huhu that Vishnu would slay him as the crocodile and liberate him from the cycle of birth and death. So although it was a curse, just like the curse meted out to Maharaj Parikshit, but because of that curse, which he accepted gladly, then we have the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, and of course, he went back to Godhead at the end of the 7 days. So padam yadvi padam natesham, of course, for the elephant, for Gajendra, that was certainly the problem. Padam yadvi padam natesham. Even if you're in the heavenly regions, as Gajendra certainly was in the ocean of milk, that's where the heavenly regions are. Still, there is danger at every step. So we have to be very, very careful. In this purport, Prabhupada is explaining how the elephant addressed the Lord as Akila Lokanath, or the Lord of the universe, who is therefore the Lord of the elephant also. The elephant, being a pure devotee of the Lord, specifically deserved to be saved from the attack of the crocodile. So this is the only way in which we can be saved, by surrendering to the Lord, by surrendering to Lord Vishnu, by surrendering to Krishna. And then we go beyond everything that is there in the material world. But it's only when we're in this state, that we're in this position where we can actually surrender to the Lord. And unfortunately, at times, it takes a lot of perseverance, and it takes a lot of suffering also before we can reach the stage where we say to ourselves, well, there's nothing I can do. I can't do anything anymore. I've reached a stage where I've tried and tried and tried to do it on my own, but it just doesn't work. So you just reach the stage where, okay, as Gajendra did. And what was the mantra that Gajendra was given to invoke the Lord? The mantra that he was reciting was as the same mantra as recited by Dhruva Maharaj, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's a mantra that has a lot of power. It's a mantra that we invoke also, obviously at the beginning of every Bhagavatam class, but it has a lot of power, much, much power. And if we actually surrender to the holy names of the Lord, we can actually get the benefit. But Prabhupada is saying in the purport The Lord is ever superior. A pure devotee of the Lord knows this difference between the Lord and himself. Therefore, a pure devotee is given first preference because of his full dependence. So this is the secret, full dependence on the mercy of the Lord. Whereas the person who denies the existence of the Lord, declares himself Lord, is called Asura. And as such, he is given protection by the strength of the limited power subject to the sanction of the Lord. So there's still some power. Every individual still has some power. But even that power, within the limited sphere of the power that we have at our command, that is sanctioned by the Lord. Ultimately, everything is sanctioned by the Lord. Since the Lord is superior to everyone, his perfection is also superior. No one can imagine it, Prabhupada says. People go to places of pilgrimage in order to be delivered from the reactions of unknown sinful acts. But this next line is very, very important. But one can be freed from all sinful reactions simply by remembering the holy name of the Lord. Simply by remembering the holy name of the Lord. What to speak of actually reciting it? The Lord is therefore as good as the holy places of pilgrimage, because the Lord is none different from his name. This is something we seem to forget on occasion. The Lord is none different from his name. Yes, it's wonderful to go to Vrindavan, it's wonderful to go to Mayapur, and to go to the Himalayas, and go to Badrik Ashram, and Jagannath Puri, but all the places of pilgrimage are contained within the holy names of the Lord. All. That's why it's called the Maha Mantra, the greatest mantra. We kind of take it for granted because it's something we recite every day. It's on the tip of our tongue, it's supposed to be on the tip of our tongue, just reciting the name of the Lord, Krishna, at every moment in time. But when we invoke the name of Krishna, we're actually invoking all the places of pilgrimage are contained in the holy names of the Lord. It's not been given the title, the Maha Mantra, for no reason. The Lord is as good as all the places of pilgrimage. One can be free from all sinful reactions after reaching a place of pilgrimage. Prabhupada goes on to say, but one can have the same benefit at home or at any place simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Satatam Kirtayanto Mam. This is so important that we remember this at every moment in time. We have been given the greatest gift of the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. For a pure devotee, Prabhupada says, there's no need to go to a holy place of pilgrimage. He can be delivered from all sinful acts simply by remembering the Lord in earnestness. So this is the point. In earnestness. The way Prabhupada chooses the words. Very, very carefully. Every single purport, Prabhupada chooses the word very, very carefully. So if we remember the Lord in earnestness means that there's nowhere else to go. The back is to the wall. Although we're not doing it out of a mood of force, that we have to. We're doing it in a mood of love. And this is what we need to do. We need to develop this mood of love. The love of Krishna. And Krishna is contained in the holy names. The Rasa Leela is contained in the holy names. All Krishna's Leela, his pastimes are contained in the holy names. Everything is contained in the holy names. And they're revealed to us. Right now I'm reading Prema Vilas, which is an absolutely wonderful book. Pastimes of love around the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there are so many, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, all the great, great devotees around the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all their Leela pastimes and connection with the holy name are described in that book, Prema Vilas. But it's absolutely incredible how much faith they had in the holy name. And Krishna manifested himself. We celebrated the appearance of Janava Mata. Of course, we celebrated Sita Mataji. But on the same day, we celebrate the appearance of Janava Mata, who's the wife of Lord Nityananda. And she and Srinivasacharya and Narottam Das Thakur, they organized the first Gaur Purnim festival a year after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they installed a deity of of Lord Chaitanya to inaugurate the festival. And the Lord was so impressed with the organization of the festival and the kirtan. Thousands of people turned up for this first Gaur Purnim festival. Thousands, tens of thousands turned up. And the Lord, in his deity form, was so attracted by the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, he jumped off the altar in the deity form and started dancing with the devotees for a fraction of a second. And then immediately he jumped back into the deity form, and the devotees went completely crazy. And we have personal experience of that. I have personal experience of that myself, not the deity jumping off the altar. But in Ireland, shortly after I joined, there was a kirtan that was so intense one evening after the evening arti, and Lord Chaitanya threw a flower from the altar into the middle of the temple room, in the middle of the devotees, which couldn't possibly have fallen off the altar. It would have fallen on the ground. But this flew at speed into the middle of the devotees. That was something I witnessed myself. So the power of the holy name is intense. It's intense. So in our daily chanting, in our daily japa, we can't just go through the round snick, 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 ram, 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 ram. We have to really emphasize the 32 syllables of the chanting of the holy name when we're chanting. It's something that as devotees, we tend to take for granted and we kind of pass over it, but we have the greatest gift that was ever given to mankind. The Lord's holy name is called Shravana Mangala. This means that one receives everything auspicious simply by hearing the holy name. Prabhupada is saying here, simply by hearing. In another place in Srimad Bhagavatam, his holy name is described as Punya Shravana Kirtana. It is a pious act simply to chant and hear all about the Lord. The Lord ascends on this earth and acts like others in connection with the activities of the world, just to create subject matters for hearing about him. Otherwise, the Lord has nothing to do. So he comes to give us his mercy. And then we can remember his Leela pastimes and invoke those remembrances of his Leela pastimes while we're chanting. And we can actually participate in those pastimes. It's not that it's a figment of our imagination. This is a part of our connection with the Supreme Lord. He comes out of his own causeless mercy and acts as he desires. Prabhupada says. Generally, however, the modern fictions and novels of the world occupy a greater part of people's valuable time. Unfortunately, people are not interested in scripture because religion for so many generations has been exploited by those who were the leaders of religion and turned it into something that is not connected with the Supreme Lord at all. It's connected with politics, connected with money, connected with power, connected with wealth, connected with honor, prestige, and ahankar. So Prabhupada is saying that such literatures cannot do good to anyone. On the contrary, they agitate the young mind unnecessarily and increase the mode of passion and ignorance, leading to increasing bondage to the material conditions. I mean, if we analyze it, we see what's the most popular program in England on the BBC. I just couldn't believe it, how many people watch EastEnders. I mean, this is just unbelievable garbage. It's garbage. It's Gramya Katha in the most horrific sense. It's just people fighting and constantly bickering and fighting each other. And it's absolutely like a magnet for the vast majority of the population. And people spend their lives watching this, and they know all the characters in it, and they die thinking about EastEnders. And people, die, and people think, oh yeah, if I can go to McDonald's, I can have a happy meal. And they're just bringing themselves into the darkest regions of hell by their daily activities, and they think this is something glorious. A happy meal, and they have the jingles, and they have the advertisement, and the children love to get their little toy. I mean, it's just horrific. And nobody even thinks, oh, there's something wrong here. And if you dare mention it, what on earth are you doing? Just switch that TV off. Just stop eating this rubbish food, which isn't even food. There's no nourishment in it. And just change your life and gear your life towards God, towards Krishna. And they don't want to know. You're interfering with their enjoyment. Where is the enjoyment? Where is it? Even as a karmi, I couldn't stand these things. But the vast majority of people are geared in that direction, and that's their life. They die for it. This is what they fought so many wars about. They're always saying, oh yeah, we fought for freedom. Freedom from what? They fought two major world wars in the last 100 years for so-called liberation, for so-called freedom. This is the freedom that they've gained from this. So obviously complete and total ugra karmic activities with nothing to be gained. The same aptitude for hearing and reading is better utilized in hearing and reading of the Lord's activities. This will give one all-round benefit, Prabhupada says. It is concluded, therefore, that the holy name of the Lord and topics in relation with him are always worth hearing, always. Satatam kirtayantoman yatantascha dridavrata namasyantyas tamam bhakya nityayukta upashate. And therefore, he is called here in this verse, Namadeya, or one whose holy name is worth chanting. That's the first verse. Now the next verse. The personality of Godhead, after hearing the elephant's plea, felt that the elephant needed his immediate help, for he was in great distress. Thus at once the Lord appeared there on the wings of the king of birds, Garuda, fully equipped with his weapon, the wheel, chakra. With the wheel, he cut to pieces the mouth of the crocodile to save the elephant, and he delivered the elephant by lifting him by his trunk. Purport. The Lord resides in his Vaikuntha planet. No one can estimate how far away this planet is situated. It is said, however, that anyone trying to reach that planet by airships or by mine ships traveling for millions of years will find it still unknown. Modern scientists have invented airships which are material, and the yogis make a still finer material attempt to travel by mine ships. The yogis can reach any distant planet very quickly with the help of mine ships, but neither the airship nor the mine ship has any access to the kingdom of God in Vaikuntha Loka, situated far beyond the material sky. Since this is the situation, how is it possible for the prayers of the elephant to be heard from such an unlimitedly distant place? And how could the Lord at once appear on the spot? These things cannot be calculated by human imagination. All this was possible by the unlimited power of the Lord, and therefore the Lord is described here as aprameya, for not even the best human brain can estimate his powers and potencies by mathematical calculation. The Lord can hear from such a distant place. He can eat from there, and he can appear simultaneously in all places at a moment's notice. Such is the omnipotency of the Lord. So this is a fact. Prabhupada, Prabhupada is so expert, he brings it down into the simplest way of understanding. I love this sentence. The Lord can hear from such a distant place. How does he hear from such a distant place? He's sitting in your heart. He's sitting in our heart. So that's how he hears. The Lord is transcendental, beyond material conception, beyond any material understanding. He can eat from there, just like when we go to offer food to the Lord. He eats it. He enjoys it. He relishes it. We all have the experience. Those of us who have worshipped deities from time to time, we all have the experience when we're dressing the deity over a period of time. I have this experience myself when I used to be a pujari, that the deity gets fat and the deity also gets skinny. The deity grows and reduces with time, depending on the love and devotion to which the devotees in that particular temple are offering to the Lord. Not the amount of food that we're giving him, but the love and devotion in which we're offering that food to the Lord. The Lord accepts it. He relishes it. And he enjoys it. And then that enjoyment is reciprocated in the taste in which we can get for that same food, which we call prasadam, the mercy of the Lord, the remnants of the Lord, and the mercy of the Lord. And someone can go back to Godhead simply based on prasadam. Prabhupada used to say in the early days, when he was feeding the devotees, when he used to make this, Prabhupada was the cook. He was the cook, and so many Leela stories are there in relation to Prabhupada. In the early days when Prabhupada would cook, Prabhupada would wash the pots, Prabhupada would clean, Prabhupada would buy the vegetables. The devotees hadn't a clue who Prabhupada was in the early days. Prabhupada did everything. Brahmananda told a story one time that the devotees went out distributing Back to Godhead. The Back to Godheads were printed in-house in the temple on a photocopy paper. And then we got the cover, which was done in color, printed by a professional printer. But the body of the magazine inside the cover was done at the temple on a Xerox machine. And the devotees would go out distributing. They would sell them for 10, 15 cents, 20 cents, a quarter if they were very lucky. And they would come back at the end of the day with, $5 or $6 or $7. And they would give that to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was encouraging them, such a small amount of money. But they would spend the whole day. And then when it became to the point where they need to be fed, then of course Prabhupada would have prasadam waiting for them. Prabhupada would get up and cook, and everything would be ready, waiting for. There was a loving reciprocation between the early devotees and Srila Prabhupada. He was there on hand. He was serving them. He would stand in the queue for the shower in the morning with everybody else. So these are just amazing pastimes. So Brahmananda, he told me once that he came back at the end of the day. Prabhupada was absorbed in translating the books, and he basically had forgotten to cook for the devotees. So what they kept, Brahmananda is a big devotee, very big, very tall. When he came back in the evening with Gargamuni and the other devotees, his brother, there was nothing ready. So Prabhupada immediately, he ran into the kitchen and he cooked a tiny little pot of halava, tiny little pot. And Prabhupada was looking, and all the devotees were standing in a line, in a queue. And Prabhupada said, hold out your hand. So Prabhupada came with this hot halava and put a tablespoon of halava in each. Brahmananda is a huge devotee. And he was looking at this completely, how on earth are we going to be satisfied with this? Brahmananda said, I took that palmful of halava and ate it. I've never felt so full or satisfied in my life. Because it was cooked with love and devotion. It was offered to Krishna, the Supreme Lord, with full and total dedication. So, we are in the same situation. We are coming in the line of Srila Prabhupada. What an amazing personality. So, we are just so fortunate. And Gajendra also, although it was a curse, and only appeared in the body of an elephant, and though the crocodile also was cursed, he was liberated. So setbacks, as we have described previously from the Leela of Jatayu, there may be so many setbacks. There may be so many adversities and so many things which are going to drag us down. But look at the benefit that Jatayu got. Yes, he lost the battle, but he won the war. The last rites were performed by the Supreme Lord himself. So we can have so many setbacks in our life, so many problems, and so many obstacles will be put in the path, because that's the nature of the material energy. Material energy is not a joke. Prabhupada used to say, the problem with my disciples is they have no respect for Maya. The material energy is not a pushover. So we have to be very, very careful and cling on to this mercy at all costs, no matter what it takes. And don't allow any obstacle or anything to get in our way. So this story of Gajendra is a wonderful story, and is something that we should all take stock of. But ultimately, where did Gajendra get his liberation from? Where did he get his mercy from? Simply calling the name of the Lord, simply calling out to Vishnu. And that's all we need to do. Simply call out to the Lord. And at the last resort, where it comes to the time to take our final breath, all we have to do is remember the name of the Lord. And there'll be so many bodily discomforts, so many. So we have taken stock of this, and we're reading so many of these incarnations of the Lord, scheduled incarnations. The whole story of Gajendra is recounted in the 8th canto, of course. So when Gajendra fixed his mind and his heart with perfect intelligence and chanted the mantra that was given to him, then he learned by his previous birth from Indrajumna, which he remembered by the grace of Krishna. So he remembered that mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and offered the lotus flower. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Supreme Lord Vasudev. Because of him, this material body acts due to the presence of the Spirit, and he is therefore the root cause of everyone. He is worshipable for such exalted persons as Brahma and Shiva, and he has entered the heart of every living being. Let me meditate upon him. So the Supreme Godhead is a supreme platform on which everything rests, the ingredient by which everything has been produced, and the person who has created and is the only cause of this cosmic manifestation. But he is different from the cause. And as a result, Gajendra said, I surrender unto him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is self-sufficient in everything. So the Supreme Lord, by expanding his own energy, keeps the whole cosmic manifestation visible. And again, sometimes he renders it invisible, as we were reading the other night from the lifetime of Lord Brahma. He's both the supreme cause and the supreme result, the observer and the witness in all circumstances. Everything in every single body. He witnesses the activities of the ant. He witnesses the activities of the elephant. He witnesses the activities of the demigods. He witnesses our activities, everything. He can read our mind. He's the transcendent, but he's transcendental to everything. So Gajendra was praying, please, that Supreme Personality, to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, please give me protection. And that's all we can do. So in due course of time, all the causes and all the effects, including all the planets and all the directors and all their maintainers, all of them are annihilated. There is a situation of dense darkness. So we are in a situation now of light. Then we may be living in a dark world which is full of all kinds of strife and darkness and tribulation, but above this darkness is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we can take shelter at his lotus feet. We are taking shelter of his lotus feet, but we have to deepen that relationship. Just like Prabhupada is describing, just like an artist on stage, he's been covered by an attractive dress and dancing with different movements, but is not understood by his audience. Similarly, the activities and features of the supreme artist cannot be understood even by the demigods or great sages. Certainly are not by those who are unintelligent like animals. Neither the demigods, nor the sages, nor the unintelligent can understand the features of the Lord, nor can they express in words his actual supreme position. But Gajendra did, even in the body of an elephant. He understood. Just like, what was the name of the great devotee who appeared in the body of a deer? Please prompt me.
Jara Bharat.
Yes, Jad Bharat. So even in the body of a deer, because he was a great devotee, he could remember his previous life as a devotee. So when he left the body of a deer, then he became a great saintly personality who was acting like dumb, like foolish, carrying the palanquin of the king. And he got into trouble with the king until he started preaching to the king. And then the king realized, wow, this is an amazing personality. I have to be careful. and he fell at his feet and took shelter with Jad Bharat. So even in the body of a deer, so there's Gajendra and there's the body of the crocodile. There are so many examples. So we can't see adversity in a sense when we're connected with the Supreme Lord. There is no adversity. Everything is there. Everything is falling in our way to help us advance on the path of Krishna consciousness. So we have to see every single opportunity, no matter, even if it appears to be holding us back, something appears to be an obstacle in our way, there is no obstacle. Ultimately, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, declare it boldly, O Arjuna, my devotee never perishes. Boldly. So we know the meaning of the word boldly. That means that it's with total conviction. So the Lord appears to annihilate the miscreants and to defend his devotees and to please his devotees, not even to defend them. He has immense potency in various forms, all free from contamination. He is the supreme Brahman. So in stories like this, they're not just mythological stories that are related just to appease our need for some kind of fictionalized idea or to make us feel happy or sad or whatever. No, they're there to bring us to the point where we can get out of this cycle of birth and death. Not only gain liberation, but actually dedicate our lives with love and with devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ultimately for our own benefit. The liberation is the side effect. There's no problem of solving, there's no possibility of solving the problems of the world. The world is going to be there. Jesus said in the Bible, when he was asked, what about feeding the poor and what about this and what about that? And Jesus said, the poor you will always have with you. That's not the objective. It's not the objective to relieve the suffering condition. Although Jesus performed many miracles, he cured the lepers, he cured the blind, he cured the crippled, he fed people, thousands of people who turned up to hear his speech, his Sermon on the Mount. He took pity on them and he fed them from just a basket of bread. He fed 5,000 people. But that wasn't the point. The point is not to feed people, not to fill their bellies, but the point is to help people to get out of this cycle of birth and death, disease and old age. That's the objective. So the Lord is the cause of all causes. He's like, when we have, Prabhupada used to give the explanation, when you have the fire, it's already in the wood, but it's covered. You have to put the wood on the fire for the fire to be extracted. The energy and the heat and the light is already there. So we just have to connect ourselves. Probably gives the example, just like when the iron by the blacksmith is put into the furnace, then the iron becomes red hot. And the iron becomes non-different from the fire. So we become non-different. We realize our connection with the Supreme Lord. When we say we're part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, we're part and parcel of Vishnu, it doesn't mean that it's like just something we just mouth off and we just say ad hoc, just as some kind of a glib statement that we just throw out. We are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So if a Gajendra in the body of an elephant can surrender to the Supreme Lord and gain liberation and go back to Godhead, and a crocodile, a serpent, a reptile, in the body of a reptile can gain liberation, what to speak of us? We want more than liberation. We want service to the Supreme Lord. And that service is guaranteed. Unalloyed devotees have no desire other than to serve the Lord, worship him in full surrender, always hear about and chant about his activities, which are most wonderful and auspicious. They always merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. As Lord Chaitanya described, I cannot contain myself. I cannot appreciate, I cannot even understand how much nectar is contained between the two syllables Krishna. And this is the Lord himself. We were reading about it in Prema Vilas the other day when we read about Janavamata. Such beautiful, brilliant, beautiful pastimes. Why do we need to read this Grammy Kata? Why do we need to read about these newspapers and all their nonsense that's going on in their politics and their wars and their fighting and their just complete nonsense? There's no need for it. What to speak of this rubbish that people dedicate their lives to, knowing the stories of EastEnders and Coronation Street and who's winning the Premier League. And I mean, people are obsessed. 50, 60, 70,000 people are going to these stadiums all over the world. And I see it every day here in Africa, where I am right now. And people are obsessed with Manchester United and Liverpool and this. And I mean, it's so discouraging. And you just want to go up to people and just grab them and wake them up. What are you doing? You're wasting your life. And you know, to the extent that we surrender, to that extent that the Krishna will reward us. Matasmirta Gyanam Apohanam Cha. From me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. The whole world is in that state. They're going to hell. Happily. That is the thing. Happily. Relishing it. And if you come along and you try to wake them up, you're the enemy. You're the problem. Such is the state of the world. So those of us who are fortunate enough to have reached the stage of engaging, even to this limited extent, whatever it may be, in Krishna consciousness, it is absolutely amazing that we've reached this stage. So the Supreme Lord, he just completely and totally took the side of Gajendra and gave him his mercy. Came from Vaikuntha to save his devotee. From a previous life, because he'd been a devotee, he got the mercy of the Lord. In this endeavor, Krishna says, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So this is what we want. We want this protection of the Lord. It is there at all times, but we have to realize it. We have to actually put our devotional creeper into practice and just completely and totally take shelter of the Lord. The Lord will reciprocate. It's guaranteed. Declare it boldly, O Arjuna, my devotee never perishes. So, I think that's all I've got to say for today. I'll read just the verse again. The leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in a river by a crocodile of superior strength, was much aggrieved. Taking a lotus flower in his trunk, he addressed the Lord, saying, O original enjoyer, Lord of the universe, O deliverer, as famous as a place of pilgrimage, all are purified simply by hearing your holy name, which is worthy to be chanted. Jai. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your patience and perseverance. Are there any questions or comments? All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for this excellent session today. Prabhuji, I just want some, I missed out on the names. So this Hoo-Ha, the crocodile, was who in his previous birth? He was
from what I'm going from memory. It's a long time since I read the 8th canto. I have to, from what I remember, he was a Gandharva. He was a king of the Gandharvas, and he was cursed by one sage. And when they were bathing in the river, and the sage regretted the curse, but then he said, "Well, I can't take it back. It's already been given out." Just like the father of the Brahmin boy who cursed Maharaj Parikshit. He said, "Well, I could withdraw the curse." And Maharaj Parikshit, he said, "No, it's okay, because we're going to hear the Bhagavatam." So he said, "But you will ultimately be saved by Lord Vishnu. You'll be killed by Lord Vishnu, so you'll get out of the body of the crocodile without too much difficulty." So that's from what I can remember, but don't quote me on that. Just delete that from the recording, okay?
And Gajendra was Indradyumna in his previous life, and he was cursed
Yes,
by
yes.
Agastya Muni. And why was he cursed?
He was cursed. I forget the reason why he was cursed. Indrajumna. I'll have to look it up. Indrajumna. Yeah, I can't remember that.
Okay.
Can't remember that.
I think Pansali
But
Mataji has a question or a comment or an addition. Mataji, kindly unmute. And
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, what an amazing class. Completely absorbed into it. Thank you very much. Prabhuji, I
thank
have
you.
a question. The people who work in the entertainment industry, do they have absolutely no hope? But what if they become devotees, and if they do their work? Because work, if they do the work in the name of the Lord, because the Lord has given them that kind of work to do. So is there no hope for them?
Well, of course there is hope, and certainly if they became devotees and are still acting in EastEnders, then there's some hope. But ultimately everything should be detailed in the service of the Lord. Just like we have to eat, right? So whatever we eat, we offer to the Lord. We offer to Krishna. I mean, but the process of eating by going to McDonald's, just look at the accumulation of the karma. And you're just perpetuating the myth that in EastEnders and Coronation Street and all these nonsense soap operas, they're all over the world. It's not only England. I'm only picking on England because that's what I know about. It's just perpetuating the myth that the body is the end all and be all of life, and all the strifes and tribulations of their daily interactions and fighting with each other and then falling out and all this kind of stuff, that's normal. It's not. What is normal is we are Satchit Anand, and we have to realize that this is our constitutional position. All the rubbish that they perpetuate on, supposedly educating people, as if people needed this kind of education. They even classify it as education. Oh yeah, we brought up this wonderful point and we elaborated on this. So this is a social aspect of life, and we have to bring this out so we can educate. They're educating people of ignorance, to perpetuate the ignorance and to deepen their ignorance. So, no, there is no hope for them, none whatsoever, unless they change their consciousness. And Prabhupada said that all we have to do to change the world is simply add Krishna. Just continue with doing whatever you were doing, unless you're a butcher, of course, that's a different story. But simply continue doing whatever it is you're doing and add Krishna. So if these actors and actresses and directors and producers, if they add Krishna into EastEnders and start quoting Bhagavad Gita, that's a different story. Then I'll watch it and I'll relish it and I'll glorify it, and I'll even pay my license fee to the BBC. But without it's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. We cannot be sentimental about it. It is rubbish. And these people, what on earth kind of consciousness brings them to this point of wanting to produce programs like this? It's nothing like that can be dovetailed in the service of Krishna. But if they add Krishna into it, or they add some degree of spirituality, but it's just so much enveloped in darkness, the mode of ignorance and fighting and stress and tribulation. What does it do for people? It's been running for what, 50, 60 years? What benefit has it produced? It just perpetuates the gossip cycle. And people take it for real. That's the thing. They take these characters for real. It just shows you the power of television. It's so insidious, absolutely insidious. And all this fear mongering they perpetuate in the news, so-called news. Where's the news? There is no news. It's all
Thank you,
rubbish.
Prabhuji. Thank you for explaining.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Hare Krishna, we have exhausted our time. So can I request Dennis Prabhu, Bhaktamugo, can you please end the session for today? And Pansali Mataji, kindly stay on for just half a minute after We glorify Prabhuji. Please.
Sure, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Dennis Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
can you come near the mic? We can't hear you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you, Prabhu, for that great class of today. It is quite it's a challenge when I see my friends also getting so deep into Premier League stuff. Thank you for opening that up for today. Thank you. Yeah. We can end the session with a round of Hare Krishna. We can unmute end the session.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama, Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare Hare.
Hare.
Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivaja Namah Pavanebhyo
Namo Namaha. Jai Vaishnav Thakur ki Jai. Thank you very much.
Vidura Prabhu ki Jai.
Haribol.
Srimad
Haribol.
Bhagavatam ki Jai.
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 Thank
Haribol.
you,
Good
Prabhuji.
night, everybody. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Good night,
you.
Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Haribol.
Thank you,
Good
Hare
night.
Krishna.
Hare
Haribol.
Krishna.